Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Talent Talks online. I hope you were doing well today. Some of you might be preparing a long weekend, I believe. So thank you so much for being here with us again. For the ones who don't know us, we are Talent Talks. So the Talent Talks online are a series of online events we're bringing to you in a weekly basis in order to discuss some HR tech subjects. We have the pleasure to welcome speakers from all over the world to do so. And we will share the link to our blog so you can see all the kind of webinars we are running. And those webinars are brought to you by talent.io. So if you are a software engineer, talent.io can help you finding your next opportunity all around Europe. And if you are recruiting or if you are building your entire tech team, talent.io is, of course, the simplest way to find the best profiles. So jump on our website and check out what we have for you. And yes, we are a recruitment platform. But you may wonder how we are dealing with the recruitment during this current situation. So are tech companies still recruiting? How the tech recruitment activity is behaving in Europe? Talent.io spent the last month building a comprehensive report on the topic of COVID-19, on tech recruitment specifically. So we've been analyzing the data of thousands of companies and we crunched everything on a PDF. It's available in French, in English, and in German. We're going to put the link there as well. So make sure you have a look, and we will also share these with you tomorrow with the post-event email. But today we are here to talk about a different subject. We all live in a really highly competitive environment. Companies are complex machines. They are driven by processes, by rules, and by methods. Their managements are normally a lot focused on competition, on results, on performance. But what those companies have in common with the community and with the society? How do they attain sustainability? Do we need a paradigm shift? Sorry. To discuss this topic, we had the pleasure to welcome Soumya Santosen, the founder of People Conscious, HR strategist based in Germany. I'm really happy to be with Soumya again today. It's the second time he's joining us, so thank you so much. And welcome, Soumya.
Thank you, Melanie. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, back again. And really looking forward for today's talk.
We can't see you, Soumya. I don't know why. Oh, great. Thank you. So just before we start to talk, I want to tell everyone that we will be together for around 40 minutes. And our chat and our Q&As are open. You can ask questions during the talk, and Soumya, I'm pretty sure, will be happy to answer. So I will hand the screen to Soumya, so you can present your slides, and I'll be back soon. Thank you, Soumya.
Thank you.
It's working, all good.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. And thank you for joining this Talent Talk, where we are. Today's topic is on sustainable organization. So I bring the topic purposefully today. The reason is very simple. We all are facing through some pandemic, and we are struggling. The organizations are struggling, and there is always a discussion. And whenever I talk with the leaders and the companies, I saw everyone is talking about how it can be sustainable, more enough, especially considering we are in digital age. And the thing is, this COVID-19 has also created a lot of alignment and also accelerations on the digital transformation in terms, and also change in the organizations, because when we talk about transformation, it's also a huge change in the organization. So there's always a relative topic on sustainable. How can we make sustainable organizations in that? So luckily, for the last many years, I've been involved in HR and HR technologies, but I've been part of also some research with some universities and group of professors in how we can make the organization sustainable. So I will share some of the glimpses on that, and also from my book, which I have also published beginning of this year. So we are already impacted before the COVID-19, already impacted with the changes which we are going forward, right? So most of the changes is happening due to the new arrival of the new technology. We have seen like there is a dramatical change in the Fortune 500 companies. Even the top 500 companies, has been changed from relatively, and is taken over by the tech companies, right? And as we are talking, right, we are in Talent Talk, mostly focusing on tech talent. And we have seen like how we have grown. Like if you talk about any technology companies since like last 15 to 20 years, it has been dramatical shift on that. So you can see here, like it has been really replaced those big names like ExxonMobil's, like Johnson & Johnson, General Electric, JP Morgan. Now it's like driven by Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, like many others. So, but other than this, we have also seen the growth of the unicorns or decacorns. Yeah, it's now more like we have seen the lift of Uber, Airbnb, Xiaomi, and many other startups who have started like a very small firm, and they have really grown to the billions already. And this type of changes, and also that the lifespan of the companies has also impacted a lot. So you can see also like, if you see from the past, the lifespan of the company is also very relative now to 15 years. So we don't know like after that it will exist or not. So there are a lot of discussions, there are a lot of interesting thought and research has been done by many universities, companies and research firms. And I think COVID has made it more interesting. So this is the current scenario. So you can see like there are a lot of big names who are in trouble right now due to COVID. And I think many of them already started bankrupt and maybe soon will file bankruptcy. So there are a lot of discussion on like big names on holding that. And we have also seen like a lot of startups, even tech companies have really faced challenges during this COVID situation, right? Because they are not ready. None of us, we are ready for that. And there are significant changes also have been seen, like some company get benefit of it. So think about the Zoom, the platform we are using now. So they have really gone high. So there is a lot of articles mentioned like the current valuation of Zoom is much more than combination of all the airlines industry. So this is really pretty good for some companies, not good for others. And one of the big reasons is definitely that we are not ready, we are not prepared, and most of the companies are not sustainable enough for future. Like they are not sustainable to really going to the unpredictable changes that is happening, and COVID is one of them. So apart from the company, this is also impacting our jobs, right? So if you can see, like there are research sent by World Economic Forum, like a lot of jobs and roles are also in trouble in terms of we have already seen a lot of firing, or there are a lot of layoffs started in a lot of companies, and some of the jobs which are really been impacted with the COVID. So there are a lot of analysis has been done, and we have seen there are also risk in a lot of jobs, like those who are working in healthcare, those who are working in personal care aides, and other officers like firefighters, like police. So all these jobs are also in risk due to the COVID situations. So, and the reversely, there are also jobs which are less risk, but they are also starting challenges. So this also impact the tech market, right? So if you see also currently, a lot of tech companies are facing challenges because though many of them are still working with remote working options, but I think remote working, you can definitely understand, is not a solution to survive for long term. It's a temporary solution which we're going forward. It can definitely impact also the future for going more, but definitely not the only solution to survive, right? And this definitely asks the question like how the organization should evolve, right? As I mentioned, like if you see like how the organizations evolve, there are a lot of different theories already in the today available. If you can try to search it, you can find a lot of theories. I'm very much impressed and have seen like there are a lot of good positive impact has been seen from one of the model which is done shared by Frederick Laloux in his book Reinventing Organization. And he tried to emphasize on like how organizations has been evolved so far. So if you see in the left hand side, so started like organizations in the beginning is like a wolf pack. So they are doing work in terms of division of labor. They are more authority based organizations, but soon when they start evolving, they are more changing. Like they start defining formal roles, and then defining different processes, how we can manage the organizations better. And this is something compared like an army or something like military, what we have already seen. And then soon, like it's the organizations more evolve into machines. So like most of the companies we are today, most of the companies, yes, there are definitely possibilities for innovation, accountability, maturity, but they are very process oriented. So they are very rules driven. They are really following a set of work, which is much more repetitive, right? So we have no like, I've been also involved in a lot of other research, like how the jobs are changing, which jobs are getting obsolete. And I found like most of the jobs are in challenge or in risk. Those are very much repetitive in their activities or tasks. And this is what nothing due to the job, this is more due to the organization's pattern. So that like most of the organizations are machines. Laloux also mentioned like when the further evolution of organizations can be proceed, it can be more turned into we call like a family, like more into empowerment, more like a stakeholder model. So more like you feel like a family, like more focusing on the collaboration, more focusing on the relationships, which we have also seen in many companies, which are almost moving from machine to family and between machine and family. And Frederick mentioned like the optimum evolution can be done when the organizations can turn into a living organism. So which is like they can manage self, like small self-management organizations. They're more focusing on their activities-based work rather than hierarchy or the evolutionary way of working. So you can see also like we have seen like a lot of organizations has been changed from their hierarchical organizations into more flatter organizations or more hybrid organizations or maybe more network driven organizations. So we have seen like organizations, the leaders are focusing how we can really combine in a decentralized way. And if you see about this COVID-19, this model works very well because today we are focusing on how we can emphasize our employees or the workforce can work in a distributed environment, right? Working remotely. And this model fit when you can really work in a more network driven model rather than a hierarchical, because that's worked well. So many of the organizations which are really doing good today has been also seen they are more open to the network rather than they have more control way of doing things. So this is something one has been already been researched before, but this is definitely helpful to understand. This is not one, like Frederick's model is not only the one model, there are many. And this is also I have tried to find out like what are the different models which have been used for the past many years, which can help companies to evolve in a better way, more sustainable way. And there are many examples. There are many good companies which are doing still good, going good. So like some of the example like holocracy, lean startup, responsive organization, Semco style, sociocracy, rework, which is one of the famous from Google, and the teal, which is from the Frederick Laloux. So you can see like many of this model has been, some of the model has been started in beginning of the 20th century, but there are a few models also like they are in 19th century model, but still most of the models are very new. And what you can see like many of these models and which work well with the companies have common ground in place. Like they are definitely focusing more on the roles, right? They're more focusing on how we can make a purpose-driven company, how we can work in a network, how we can really more empowering rather than controlling, how we can more focus on our stakeholder, adding business values, how we can really impact with the way of working, like how we can change our way of working so that it can be valuable for the companies and the leaders and of course for the workforce. And then how it can be managed self, like, so, and this type of evolution is not only impacting the organization overall, rather it's also impacting our roles, right? Think about it, a company, you're really working for a large, very structured, controlled company where whenever you are doing your role, you have very limitation of your activities or tasks, because this is very structured. You have dedicated role, you have your dedicated task to do in a very order way. And think about the companies you're working for, like startups, which are more self-managed companies, and then you will get more opportunity to expose yourself. So you think about in a technical way, this is a very good example. So we can always have to remember, like, this evolution doesn't also impact the company rather than also your job and roles. And then we have seen, like, most of the organizations are really focusing now on like how really they can move from control to more flexible and transparent organizations. They can develop like that. So they are more, companies are more focusing to avoid bureaucracy or complex process to more purpose-driven or self-managed organizations or team. And then we have always seen like organizations face challenge with like teams are working in silos. They focus more on instruction and rule-based working, repetitive jobs. And that's what one of the reasons also to most of the people try to leave the company, right? It's because they are unhappy, they're not happy with their job, they're not happy with their career, they don't see their growth. And this type of organizations, which you can see the left hand side, which is many of the organizations are still like that. So we have seen like many, most of the people who are working here are not happy. And that's why the turnover rate is also higher in those type of organizations. In reverse to that, like when the organizations are more towards a living organism, like defined on a purpose, that self-managed or more flexible and transparent, they are doing really good. So very, very common example is Google and Facebook, like all the tech companies who are more driven to the right shift rather than the left one. And that's why, like you can see now, remember the chart which I showed in the first slide. Most of these tech companies have replaced the big old names like Walmart, ExxonMobil, and other bureaucrat companies, which are huge, large, but they're not flexible or not much more like a living organism rather than they work as a machine. And this is something to understand, like why this change we need to do for all. So now I will focus more on like how to really sustain in an uncertain world, right? So what is important to really make you sustainable organizations and also sustainable in your working environment, like what matters to that. So I will talk about a paradigm shift here, like, and which I was already telling you, like, we are very much good, like, so far in a certain environment when we know, yeah, this is going to happen. This is our task. We are doing this. We will get our bonus, or this is we will receive our result, or we will growth in that rate. So we are very focus oriented. So and we follow rules. We have models. Yeah, most of the organizations are complicated, but we follow some methods. We have process in place. Very good. So this is actually really, so far, the organizations are working very good in this environment. It's not something bad, but we have seen this is not working today. And the reason is very simple, because today we are already in the digital age, industry 4.0, and we have seen a huge shift in our way of working. We have seen a huge shift in business model. We have also seen like how much disruption has been happening in all over the industry, irrespective of any industries or business functions or the companies. And it has been seen like we are living in an uncertain world today. We are right where things cannot be really done in a way which can be done in past. And that's why this whole shift is happening. That's why we call the paradigm shift. And when we talk about the uncertain world, and one of the very good example in COVID, what we need is more co-creations, more flexibility. Like very good example is remote working. Like people are working from home, they need flexible times. They could be more save your time in their traveling or in engagement of other things. They can be more fresh in their creativity and experiment. This is one example. And there are definitely other ways to make more effectiveness. And you can also see here, like when we talk about certain environment, like when we are know like what is going to happen, like machines are very good at that. Yes, and most of the companies are good at that because most of the companies are still in the machines model, like if you see. But in uncertain environment, it is humans are good at that. And there is always a talk like when AI is going to replace our job or robots are going to replace our job. I've been part of several discussion and panels and I talk, and I always say like it's depend on us whether are we going to really trying to survive in an uncertain environment, or we still stick to our own way of doing work. If we still sticks to our own way of doing work, we are more following the process, we are more following the methods, and in our daily task, I'm sure like all of our jobs will be definitely done, can be done by the intelligent systems or machines because they are much faster and productive compared to us. But if we really focus on our uncertain environments, like what is happening today, if we really focus on creativity, on co-creations and more experiment-driven mindset, bring innovation to the companies and our work, definitely it's going to help. One of the biggest things here is how we can going to learn, because so far the learning is a very important thing which we is different, getting different from the past. Because if you see the certain environment in the past, we are more driven on our education, like, you know, so people have done their masters, computer, PhD, whatever, and they are focused on their learning what have done in their universities. Today, the things has changed. So definitely the university degrees matters, but it's also a continuous learning. So you especially think about your technology environment, like so many different languages, so many different tools are arriving every day, and then get obsolete in some year. And then you really have to be efficient enough to get those tools and knowledge ready, and you have to be learn continuously in that environment, right? And you have to be innovative enough also to use those tools, use those platforms, use those technology to make effective, yeah, to your adding your business values to the companies or to the business. And then the value will be created in the past, it's more tangible, right? It's more driven by numbers, like sales figure. That doesn't going to work. So today is more intangible. So the value can be created also by numbers, but also created by how you are providing effective sharing and learning to the community, sharing to your workforce, your leaderships, your skills. How can we become more role model? And very good examples are the who are in the top of the organizations today. Like many organizations try to follow Google, right? They're trying to follow Google model, or how the Facebook is working or the Amazon is working. So this is something which is driven by innovations. And this is, we have also seen there are a lot of reports has been arrived. Last year, BCG make a very good report, like most of the sustainable organizations which can be created in future should be driven by innovation. And that's very much key information all the organizations have. As I mentioned, like sustainable organizations need also a big transformation, right? This is what I also involved during my research for last 2 years, 3 years. And what we have found, like we try to understand like where the most of the organizations are and their focus on, and where they want to go, and the organizations which are doing well, what's important for them. And we compare a lot of organizations. I will show you some graph, like some example, like on this model. And what we have seen, like in terms of values, a lot of organizations who are doing well are getting closer towards sustainability, are more cooperative, or like more focused on cooperation than competitions. So competition, there are still organizations who are focusing on competitive. They want to be competitive. We have to be, but they focus more on the cooperation rather than competitions. So they are doing very good partnerships with their vendors, with their even with their customers, even with their competitor itself. So we have seen that, and there are a lot of organizations have changing that model on that part. And in that purpose, like the major thing is the trust. Right. So when the organizations have increased more trust, more flexibility, more empowerment, more optimism over their culture, and that's also helped the company to thrive over the future. The second point, and the second part is here, like we have also seen, like organizations who are doing well towards sustainability are more focusing on recognition than authority. So we have seen like it's a very interesting and very common discussion about like a boss and leader, right? And this is we have seen like people like to work under a good leader rather than a good boss, because like boss are like, like typical boss are more authority driven, so they are not transparent, they don't respect to the values to their reportees or employees, they are not committed, they take their all recognition by themselves. So we have seen this type of uh, discussion around us, and many of these employees and workforce are leaving organizations because of their bad boss, right? And this is something which is coming from also organizations culture, because this recognition culture is you need to build, is not come from automatically for organizations. So this is something like all those organizations who are doing well, they are more focusing on recognition than authority. And the same, and this is also linked to the next one, which is they are more focusing on fair rewarding than unfair wages. So I know like earlier, like when we have our performance review, we have seen like there are some categories like you get this rewarding for if you have this you achieve your goal, and you have this type of rating. If you don't receive a good rating, if you have an average rating, you will receive different bonus, or maybe you have different things. So if you see like the performance management or the performance review of the companies which are doing well, this is also changing. So they are more focusing on rewarding the team than the individuals, because team can make the efforts, right? So they can really focusing on the meritocracy and more accountability to the team rather than individuals. So definitely in the team, there could be a leader. But again, when we talk about fair rewarding, like most of the bonus given to the team, most of the rating given to the team rather than individuals. And that's also is create balance between the team to make it more robust and effective. So these three are very much common we have seen during our research in most of the companies which we are going forward. And the fourth one, which is also derived from the university research like Sustainable Organization Index, we have also seen like all those companies who are doing well in terms of sustainabilities, they are more focusing on how they create value not only to their stakeholders or shareholders, but also to their employees, also to the community, also to the whole industry. So you can see like very good example, which I am already talking, like Google, Facebook, and there are many others I will show you in a later stage. They're always focusing on to create value in the community rather than their shareholders. And when you're really focusing on value towards the big environment or the broader scale, their shareholder automatically get benefit. So that's their target. So they're not focusing on the shareholder rather than focusing on all of their workforce and the community itself. So this is a very good studies, and we call this type of organizations as a dolphin organizations, which are more like, it's like a dolphin compared to the shark, which is the left hand side. Those organizations who are more focusing on the left hand side, more competitive, more authority driven, more focusing on shareholder values, they are called as the shark organizations. We still have many shark organizations in the world today, but I think what we have found, like dolphin organizations are doing better in terms of sustainability when we are talking about these roles. This is a very small examples, a very short overview. Like, as I mentioned, like when we talk about our SOG index or the Sustainability Organization Index, this is way we have tried to calculate based on the research. And there is a book also available on sustainable organizations, which I'm also a co-author of this book. So if you're interested, you can go on detail. But as I mentioned, my main purpose is to show you like these organizations are not only driven by their owners or not focusing on their shareholders, also value to the community and the team, the workforce itself. Because without focusing on the employees, without focusing on the community, you really cannot generate huge value to the organization in terms of sustainability. And definitely there are other other units like supplier, their vendors, their customers, their partners, banks. So yeah, I think everyone is definitely need their values, and you also have to consider their values as well. So there is a like a derivation of this, all this under like community owners and team. We try to derive an index on that, and based on that index, we try to find out like where are the companies are doing in terms of their sustainability index. This is very few example from some of the companies. We try to compare like different companies on their whatever data which is available publicly, and some of the companies we have approaches. And we found like those companies which are doing really well in sustainability, like which are also the top companies in the Fortune 500. You can see like the Google's, you can see is like 17.04 sustainability index, which is the highest one. And we know like they are doing well. And compared to that, you can see like old banks like Morgan Stanley, or like companies like UPS and others are not well enough compared to those companies which are doing well. So you can see a very slack difference between those companies who are more modernized and more focusing on their sustainability innovation and focusing on their employees rather than focusing on their others. So the major important things what we have learned also, and the organizations who have doing well is they have also understand like for organizations we really need a right strategy to manage uncertainty in digital age, right? So as I mentioned, like if we don't prepare well, we cannot survive in uncertain environment. A very good example is COVID. So they're still, even in many organizations are facing challenges in COVID, some of the organizations are not, even they are taking benefit of it. And the very good example is Zoom. They're lucky enough, but there are many other cases like this. But the well planned and more well strategy driven organizations are doing well. And it has been also seen from the Gartner survey recently in 2020, early 2020, like most of the transformations are failing, and one of the big reasons is to have missing digital strategy or missing strategy in their digital front, because most of the organizations are focusing on buying new savvy, tech savvy digital solutions, rather than don't follow on their workforces, their organization culture, their change in the organization. So until you really change the organizations in a way, also like the workforce and the employees also don't understand what is valuable to create value to the business and to the community itself, it's very difficult to really sustain, not only for the organizations, also for the individuals. So like based on my experience, and as I mentioned, like I've done a lot of research, I'm working on a lot of large company, large corporations, even startups for many years. So 15 months of my effort, I started writing this book. Definitely is focusing on digital HR strategy. So as that's my main area of HR organizations, how really can change this one. So I focus on like in my book, like how really can make the sustainable transformation in this digital age. That's very important. And all the studies which I shown here is one of the examples how you can make this organization sustainable. And for this situation, what we are facing today is very, 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 very important in that purpose. So I came to the end of this presentation, and I'm really open to the question. So over to you, Melanie. So if you can share the questions, or I can definitely.
Thank you so much, Soumya. So we have one of the questions is, I believe, SORG index. What is exactly the SORG index?
Okay, so I will just back to my presentation. So this is a slide which I was showing. I haven't explained too much on that part. So SORG index is based on some calculations, which is on a scientific calculation based on the research done by some of the universities in Europe. And you can see like when you talk about SORG index, it's more applicable to how organizations is driving values to not only to the stakeholders or shareholders, rather to the entire, the whole ecosystem, I will say. So you can see like it includes community, it includes the team, it includes the state, which is also the countries, the bank, subcontractor, supplier, and definitely the owners, like which is there. So based on that, we try to analyze, like if you see, analyze what is the economic benefit of the community as a result of organization's activity. So how much benefit is giving to the community. We try to analyze those in terms of data. So there are some data, this data set available for publicly, but also we try to find out with the company. There is also like, we try to find like how much economic benefit is giving to the owners of the organization. So when we talk about owners, it's very much easier because it's more about the stakes, it's more about the value, it's business, the company value or the company valuations. So that's more easier. I think difficult part is to how they provide benefit to the community, because, and that's also, we really have to understand like how much the organizations is engaged with the community and providing, creating value proposition to the community. So that's more like intangible thing rather than tangible, because we cannot have value numbers on that, but we really have to do some more research and more thorough analysis on finding on that part. So apart from this, you can see in the formula in C and M, C and O, there are other things like, which is one is the median salary of the employees of the organizations. That's important, like how much fair wages they are giving to all employees. If you see, like, for example, or most of the tech companies, you can see very few differentiation between the technology people. Like maybe they are senior developer or junior developer, or maybe software engineer. So you cannot see like a huge difference, like even in a like very less experienced person in the technology company with have highest performance are almost getting a similar salary from a senior person who is maybe not delivering in the same way. So it's not very much fixed. And if you compare to the like big organizations, it's very much driven on your experience. The numbers are also very much driven on your roles, your grade. Like you cannot compare like those person who join as very junior like analyst in the organizations will receive a similar salary package of those who are working as a director. But in those new sustainable companies or the tech companies which are doing good, you can see this difference. You can find very minimal difference on that. So it's very important to understand like what is the median salary and the average salary of the employee in the organizations. That's help in the calculation. And then what is the highest salary of the organizations? That's because that will also see like is the wages which are giving to employees are similar enough or not? Because we have seen like most of the organizations were the top executive, whatever they earn is much bigger than the salary of the whole organization itself, right? So if you combine the salary of the all employees, maybe it's less than some of the executive which they are earning. We have organizations like this. So this can definitely differentiate like the difference of the wages, which is not fair wages. And this will create in resistance with the sustainability of the organizations we have found out. So this is the formula which is based on this analysis, and based on the research, we try to develop the SORG index on that. And the SORG index, which again, you can see here in the next slide, like it's giving the index based on this calculation, and we try to calculate for several companies on that.
So they're just asking the R and the G on the SORG, what do they stand for?
So SORG is like sustainable organizations. So it's a short form of SORG. Sustainable Organizations Index is we have this formula which I share with you. So SORG is a sustainable organization. So how can we, so when we see, just showing this graph, like when we see like how many, so what are the organization you can see in the below. So we can tell here like that, who are here the more sustainable organizations. And you can see the numbers is definitely Google. Out of this, Google is definitely top here, and there is also companies like John Lewis, who is also very sustainable in terms of their maturity in the sustainability. So we can compare that, and we can easily find out, which is not easy normally if you really want to see who is a sustainable organizations or not. So this formula is used based on research, and it's easy to find out like which organizations receive like more sustainability in terms of their work, in terms of their value.
Great. We have another question, which is how does COVID-19 disrupt the already disrupted HR cloud in products or processes in organizations?
Yeah, so I've part of many like implementations of on-premise solutions, HR solutions, and also cloud solutions. So I'm still doing it. And there are like many companies, they're using a lot of cloud solution, not only on HR, but also in other. But they have also like other solutions like which are still on premise. Like in many business functions, there are not many cloud solution available. They are still using on premise. Like very good example is manufacturing, right? So manufacturing, they are still very customized on premise solution in most of the cases, because they're very much customized, customized based on the requirement for the manufacturing industries and their shop floors, their supply chain. So those are very much like on-premise, or and the challenges with COVID-19 impacted a lot. We have seen that, and we know like most of the like team who can really work well, if I say like more work risk free, those who are working from home, right? And if you see, most of the companies who have provided work from home is mainly those people who are either in like sales or IT or an enabling function like finance or HR. But those people who are working in manufacturing are have to go to their plants or respective factories and their respective location. And so we have seen like so I have tried to analyze like in US itself, like we have seen only 29% of the workforce up in the with the COVID impact are working from home. The rest are still working in their own location, which is a very full of risk, definitely. And this is the reason, because they have their environment need to go there, because one is definitely their work. Like if you think about blue collar workers, they really have to work in the factories and the industry. They cannot work from home on that part. And also their technology, like as I mentioned, like those technology used in the manufacturing industry and all those special cases are very customized, and they are not cloud based. So I can definitely tell like cloud based solution are helpful. So HR is very good example. Like those who are using HR cloud, they're more flexible enough, they can work from home, they can use mobile solutions. So definitely it's impact a lot, and definitely it will also accelerate a lot of other organizations to move more to cloud.
Definitely. We do have another question from Jeremy, who is asking, how do you see the traditional IT and HR organizations coming together to create new digital human-centric experiences?
That's a great question. So that's my purpose actually. So I always try to do that. So I've been into like in this HR tech industry for like more than 17 years. So I remember like in olden days, uh, I used to part of IT rather than HR, right? So and then the HR comes to IT as a support, even its implementation, even it's a new project, even about technology, and it's work a very two different team working in a silo. And we have faced the challenges, and we have seen the consequences are not good. And that's why you mentioned like how we can make it more human centric. So those are more like a very good example of working as a machine, right? So they are more process driven, they are more silos driven, they are more bureaucratic. And the loss is our own, right? The organization get the loss, like they really get not the actual benefit of it, because it's increased the cost. We have seen like those old projects and old type of working increase the cost, increase the timeline, increase the effort of the people who are working. And definitely it's not good enough, because at the end we are not creating a huge value. So we are delivering the same value with high amount of cost and efforts and also our time. And maybe it's also repetitive in some nature. If you think about today world, which has been changed a lot, right? So we have seen like this HR and IT is coming together, like we call it HR IT in many organizations. We have also seen like digital HR team, so which is also evolving a lot. So which is also part of my research, and my book is also focusing on how we can create more digital HR environment. So digital HR for me is not just buying technology solution, it's also about how we can really build efficient team to work, giving better human-centric experience to the employees and to the workforces. And that's what the missing part, because today also like we have seen like many of this HR solution, even for an outside HR solution, and not very much customer driven solution. So they are not focused for a more employees and managers flexibilities or experience, rather they're more focused on process, right? And we have already seen for last many years when the cloud solutions come into place, whether it's Workday, SAP SuccessFactors, on any other cloud solutions. So we have seen that there is a like intimate change has been happened, and that's definitely beneficial to many organizations. So we have seen also like with the lot of research firm have done, even for the Gartner, they have seen like when we had this cloud solution has been introduced, which are more better user experience and better in terms of simplification of processes. there are more adoptions of HR solutions by the companies. Like employees are better, like happy. They are not like happy enough or good enough. So I have also part of one panel last year. We have discussed with all of the HR tech experts and influencer. We have seen even this cloud solution in place. Still, I would say in terms of human-centric experience, it's still very low. So out of 10, I will give even 2.5. So it's still very, very low. And there's been a lot of discussion going on. If you all know Josh Person, so he has already mentioned it in his lot of articles and on his talk. Also, like he's one of the top analysts, and he mentioned like in future those HR cloud solutions will be more driven towards employee-centric or more employee experience platform-driven solution rather than what we are focusing on process. So yes, so things are changing, and I'm sure like in future there are more things will happen here. Like as I mentioned, like HR, we have moved from IT and HR to HRIT, and I think things will be changed in future to more like digitalize our digital team, which digital team will consist of both IT, like IT expert and HR team together, because HR have to change a lot in terms of other business functions, which are really doing much more ahead of HR. So this change is already happening, and we can see more changes.
Thank you so much, Soumya. That was so insightful, and definitely things need to change, and we need to be closer to each other and create different human experiences. Soumya, if you can share the link to your book. Some participants were asking to have the link to the, I don't know, the Amazon probably.
Yeah, so it's available in all the channels around the world. So if you just type in name of my book, my name and this book name, Digital HR Strategy, you can find it everywhere. It's available in all the channels, any channel. So you can find it anywhere.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Soumya, for having to join us again today. That was really interesting. We will share the record on YouTube, and we will also send you the video tomorrow. And just as a quick note, everyone who has been joining us since the beginning of the Talent Talks Online know that this is a series, and we do this every week. I have the honor to announce that next week we will welcome Gordon Treadgold, and he's going to talk about how do we need to adapt our project organizations, our approaches, and how do we tweak our leadership style to increase engagement, build momentums, and create a strong culture that had people not only productive, but taking accountability and ownership. So we will share the link now, so you can sign up if you want. That would be on Thursday next week. And again, we will share the link to the state of the market, the study that talent.io did in the last month to gather a lot of data about the state actually of the recruitment in tech all over Europe. So thank you very much for having been here with us. Thank you, Soumya, again, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.